So you kind of mentioned that housing may be one of the biggest game changer investments. I think I've seen a couple comments around childcare. So particularly, I have a comment here that somebody's parents usually take care of their children when they're not at school, but this person doesn't want to risk their health. So they're pushing for something like a universal childcare or more daycare spots to provide for them while they are dealing with the pandemic in the short term. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that earlier that could very well be a focus. I know that childcare services are delivered provincially, and it's never simple to, at least from the federal government's perspective, to get more involved in areas in provincial jurisdiction. With that said, there was a huge increase in the amount that the federal government transferred to the province to do that in the last government. And I know there's discussions happening right now of how the federal government could get even more involved. But when you're looking at where investments can be made and where that could best be placed to get the most amount of people back to work, that would certainly be an area. And I know the provincial government's very supportive of this as well. They have their plan to, I think it's $10 a day daycare plan. I think they put a target by 2030. That's a really important target to meet. And I know this is something that the federal government is quite interested in seeing where we can get more involved in. And that's something that Minister Hussein is quite focused on.
Perfect. Now I'm going to have a comment from Ryan, who's been moderating some of these questions. I'm going to let him skip the line, and his vote is to bring back city plazas. I have another question that we received earlier, is how can we create more space for social distancing? And does the federal government provide funding to do stuff where we can make more space for people to ride their bikes, gather together? And maybe stuff like city plazas for Ryan.
Yeah, well, I think those are, I think those are great ideas. And right now we have this existing bilateral agreement with the provinces about how infrastructure money can be spent. We do have a specific stream called Community Cultures and Recreation, where it could fund things of that nature. In addition to this, there is a proposal to have a new stream that'll be responsive to the pandemic, where it will create the opportunities for different pieces of infrastructure to allow for more social distancing. And this is something that's at the proposal stage. I understand is quite close to being approved, but that would create a separate stream where nonprofits, businesses, or governments could apply for infrastructure funding to do just that. So I think it is something that the idea of plazas is something that what makes going and traveling in Europe great. And it's our cities are really designed around cars, and I think that really is to our detriment, because when you have a plaza, it creates a center for an area for people to congregate, and it's certainly something that we miss in our society.
Yeah, I think that's something that's definitely missing from Sechelt. I look to nearby Whistler. I think the Olympic Plaza, the Village Stroll, where it's a public space where people collect, and I think providing safe spaces to do that is great. And I'm excited that the federal government's already thinking of that, and they've already shifted some of that infrastructure proposal towards that.
It's interesting because a lot of the provinces want the infrastructure funding to go to building roads. We want this infrastructure funding to go more towards funding things like active transportation. And so there's a level of negotiation that's happening right now, but that's certainly the focus that we're looking for.